Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Rue Code podcast. I am your host, Hannes Rudolph, the community manager here at Rue Code. And today I am joined by three guests, Matt, our CTO at Rue Code, Danny, our CEO at Rue Code, and most importantly, Paige Bailey from the Google DeepMind team. Hello.
Greetings, and I don't know if I'm most importantly, but I will say I am very excited to be here with all of y'all today. I'm a huge fan of Recode and really have loved seeing how y'all have evolved it over the course of the last many months.
Well, I'm going to say that most important, for sure. Nobody wants to hear Danny and Matt talk.
I'm only here to hear you.
So, for listeners who may not know who you are, can you tell us a little bit about what you do at Google?
Yeah, so I work on our developer relations team, which is making the Gemini APIs, AI Studio, Gemma, all of our AI developer products at DeepMind available and accessible to folks outside. So if you've ever used AI Studio, if you've ever kind of built something using one of the Gemini models, there's a good chance you've probably used one of our products. In my background, I did machine learning starting around 2009 as an engineer, so I've been around for a bit. Started off mostly working with Python open source tools. So open source is very near and dear to my heart. And then also had some time working with the VS Code team at Microsoft, who are all amazing. And so feel free to go deep into all of the technical innards of everything that we have available. I'm really looking forward to technical questions.
Well, I guess you have a number of demos to show us.
Oh, heck yeah. Yeah.
You want to kick off into that?
Yeah, let's do it. So since the last time we talked, I think Google's been a little bit busy. I don't have slides, mostly because I am not a super fan of slides. But I do have a few things that we've released just recently that might be nice to share. We have released today, coincidentally, and I wish there was like a party emoji. We released VO 3.1 in Flow and then also within our APIs. So if folks haven't seen it, VO 3.1 is kind of the next evolution of our video generation models. In addition to being able to generate photorealistic looking video and short snippets, you can also add background audio. And the realism is much more powerful than even our VO3 model was. Let me see. Can you hear this as well?
I do not hear sound on it. Do you want to talk us through what's? I don't hear any sound coming through on it.
So there is sound in the background. It might just be that it's not wanting to play, but the video is available for folks to test out and to look at. I'll add the link in the chat as well. But the model itself is able to generate these photorealistic looking videos as well as background audio for a variety of scenarios. You can start using it today for your projects, and we're really looking forward to seeing what you build along the way as well. Also, since the last time we've talked, we released something called the Computer Use API for the Gemini models, which gives Gemini the ability to navigate a browser for you. It kind of periodically takes screenshots, uses those to control the mouse movements, or to decide where buttons could click, and you can ask it to do anything from kind of browse websites, reason about websites. or kind of interact with different platforms. So you see a couple of examples down here, like review a pull request on GitHub or play a game of 2048. I really like doing things like saying, find me a pink yoga mat that is on sale and that can arrive in San Francisco by next Friday. Make sure that it's made of eco-friendly materials, and then see how well Gemini would be able to find those kinds of constraints for the product. Yeah, you can. One nice thing about having the 2.5 Pro model power this experience is that it's really, really good at reasoning. So you can see that it's incorporating tools use. It's understanding when next Friday might be. So it's able to understand kind of the current date. It can create these optimized search queries. And then it can also kind of point and click in the browser to see things that might be good options. So it's nice to kind of have it running in the background and clicking through all of these things as you do other work. But it's been really, really fun to see this evolve, and you can use it today via the API, and then also this really nice Gemini browser-based extension. I'll add the link in here as well if folks want to try it. In addition to the blog post link. Let me see if I can pull that up really quick.
And Paige, is this its own independent model, kind of like Nano Banana, or is it part of the Gemini 2.5 Pro model?
So it's part of, it's powered by our Gemini 2.5 family. So if I pull up the blog post, it's whenever you use it via the API, you do have to change out the model string. So it's not just using the same model that you might try otherwise. There it is. Like it's this model doc string instead, but it is the same Gemini 2.5 family of models.
Interesting. Excellent.
Yeah.
We should, one of our users here, what's his name? AI Code King said that it pointed out we currently don't support it in Rue, but he's hoping for it soon. So
Awesome.
I think that's something that we're going to definitely work on.
Excellent.
I think handling browser use would really be a great application.
Very cool. And we can check in. I'll leave this running in the browser in the background. We can check in on it later on in the series to see how well Gemini was able to do at the task that I was defining.
We
It
can
looks
just
like
keep it streaming here while we chat.
Yep. It looks like.
Is it actually going to buy it for you and order it?
Well, it can't buy it for me yet. Like it can put it in my shopping cart, but I have to buy it myself. And so it looks like it was able to find a couple of options. And is going to see which one might be able to be rush delivered by the California zip code in the course of the next couple of weeks, which is pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I've got questions for you today.
Yeah, and then so those were like a couple of options, and then the other thing that might be useful to talk through, just in case folks haven't seen, is the build capability. I'm not sure, did we talk about that last time, or did we just do Nano Banana?
I don't think we talked much about it. The last time you were streaming was or were on our podcast was such a long time ago.
Yeah, this is true. So let me just show this very, very quickly. I promise it'll be interesting, or we'll try to make it interesting.
No,
but the build feature, if folks haven't seen it, it's basically it's very similar to what you might experience if you were using v0.dev or Bolt or Lovable or something similar. It's just hyper optimized for all of our Gemini APIs, our Google DeepMind models, and then also has a fast path to deploy via Cloud Run. We're also adding a whole bunch of new features to it soon, which I'm sure y'all can imagine what those features might be. But in the interest of time, I'm just going to go ahead and start describing how you might use it. So as an example, I could say create an app that takes a picture of the user with the webcam. The app should then use Nano Banana to show the user hugging a kangaroo and make sure that the image is displayed and looks like a postcard and says, we love Rue code in well-designed font styles. I'm not very good at prompting for this one. Make sure
I think you're nailing it.
App is well designed, and we'll see how well it does. So I hit enter. Immediately we see this kind of thinking mode. So it's using Gemini 2.5 Pro to break down step-by-step everything that would be required in order to build this app using the Gemini models and features. Since it's tied in with our GenAI SDK, it's using the latest models and features, as opposed to if you were just relying on an API call, sometimes you're limited by the training data cutoff. So I'm sure everybody has experienced this. Like if the model's training data is only good as of December 2024 or January 2025, then if you're just using the API itself, you only know about things up to that date, whereas this kind of incorporates much more recent data. Like as an example, if you asked it about VO 3.1, it would be able to know how to use it. If you asked it about the computer use API, it would also be able to generate code for that. And so you can see the code getting generated off to the right, in addition to any prompts that would be needed in order to interact with the models. We also have a handy deploy to GitHub button over here on the right, so you can save to a public or a private repo on GitHub. And then also, I usually find that I can kind of build the first iteration of the app, and then I really want to kind of save it to GitHub and to use it within an IDE. But let's see how well it works. So I'm going to take a picture.
Yeah.
Create a postcard. We'll see how well it does. If it runs into any errors, we can also use Gemini to help fix the errors just with a one click. Yep. So there's me with a kangaroo, says we love Rue code. There's a place for a stamp. Clearly I should go to Australia. Though, and I do seem to be dressed like crocodile. What was it
Dundee.
called? Steve Irwin, crocodile.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's quite nice to be able to create this. And since we also have this nice Cloud Run integration, I'm going to go ahead and deploy the app. So it should give me a unique URL, which we can add into the chat, and everybody can go generate themselves pictures with kangaroos that all say we love Rue code. Let's go ahead and do it. So I'm going to copy this, paste it into the chat. You can see it kind of in action, deployed website, and then you can also see all of the logs associated with the website as well. You can connect to a repo. So if I did want to save to a repo and start iterating on it in a local IDE as opposed to just using it in AI Studio, I could. And you can also see as people test things out, the kind of metrics and the requests coming through. So it looks like there are already a couple of people testing it out, which is pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah. Amazing. So those were the primary things that I wanted to showcase, were the build feature, the computer use API that we just recently released, and then also, of course, the VO 3.1 capabilities, which are pretty exciting. I especially love having the ability to have ingredients to video, so you can upload a scene or you can upload a person. Or a specific object or all of the above, and have VO 3.1 kind of compose them all together into a short clip.
Well, there's one thing. You probably know we love Nano Banana over at RuCode. And something that we would really, really like is transparencies. That's a Matt question that he put on our list. When
Yeah.
are we going to get transparencies in Nano Banana?
Yeah.
And I,
So, yeah. So,
I saw your sprite generator there, Paige, and I was thinking like, wouldn't that be so awesome if they were transparent? So,
yeah, I 100% agree. I think you could do it. So I think you could do it probably with something like build. Like you could use build to kind of take the Nano Banana image, segment it out, so and then convert it into an SVG or a PNG or something similar where you don't have the background. But having it in Nano Banana, I can ask the team, but I think the majority of the time they're focused on having all of the pixels in kind of square rectangular formats.
No, that makes sense. Sorry to put you on the spot there.
No, it's all good.
Well, you've mentioned a number of your what you guys have released recently, and there's been tons going on at DeepMind. People are, I mean, it's all over my feed, left,
Yeah.
right, and center, everywhere I go. You guys are what people are talking about. So, what new features that are up and coming excite you the most? And as well, this is sort of a two-part question. What about current features do users commonly misunderstand?
Oh, wow. Excellent and very meaty discussions probably for both. So I really love I really love computer use enabling people to take action in a browser or take action on a screen. I think that models are increasingly going to move in that direction. That they need to be able to incorporate tools, that they need to be part of systems as opposed to expecting the model to do all of the work for generating code, writing code, etc. So I do think that the browser use, computer use are going to be increasingly important. But I'm also really excited about our tiny models. And like the tiny models, our Gemma 3N model is better than Gemini 1.5 Pro was, even though it's 4 billion parameters in size and you can run it on your laptop, as opposed to like needing a whole big slice of TPUs in order to run the model. So I think longer term, we'll see super tiny models be extremely good, extremely capable, and like not even needing to send requests to not even needing to send REST requests to get the kinds of responses that you would need in order to build things, but just being able to use models that are hosted locally.
Yeah. Well, no, that's a great answer. Thank you. You've probably seen that in RuCode, we use your guys' embedding models pretty
Yep.
heavily. I'm curious how you think about the Gemini, the 001 model versus the embedding Gemma model. Is there a time and place for each one? Is the embedding Gemma model something that we should be incorporating into RuCode?
So I would say you would want to use the embeddings model that is related to the to kind of the overall model that you're using. So if you're using the Gemini APIs, you would probably want to use the Gemini embeddings model. If you're using Gemma, probably you would want to use embedding Gemma kind of coupled with it. But I do think that there are two distinct differences, right, between our open model family and our Gemini proprietary model family. One is that the training processes are similar for each one, but they are not identical. And so you will probably run into really really sort of minute but important behavioral differences between the two different model families.
Yeah.
And then, of course, like the Gemma model family is open. So if you do have requirements that are, needs to be on device, needs to be fast, needs to be zero cost, then the Gemma model family is probably the best one for you.
Makes sense. Here, sorry, internal back and forth going on. I wanted
Yeah.
to get Danny to ask the next question.
Yeah. Something that is interesting that we're seeing here at Root Code is that it's not just the engineers who are using the large language models to code. I was curious what new opportunities you see opening up because of this, and
Yes.
which skills you think matter going forward for
Oh.
those that are earlier in their career.
Oh my gosh, I love this question. I definitely feel like we're seeing the world open up for information workers who have never been software engineers before, and scientists and historians, English majors, like pretty much anybody can build things now. If you can prompt and if you can kind of clearly communicate your requirements. There have been instances where I talked to founders of companies who have never, written software before, who honestly don't know how to even do things like set up environments or interact with file systems. So I think right now we're at this very strange time where people can build an initial prototype and kind of get it working enough to kind of deploy it to even turn it into a small business. But given that they don't have software engineering backgrounds, it's still a struggle for them to make updates, to swap out backends, to migrate from one release of an API to another. And eventually that will probably improve. But it's been very, very wild to me to see, just like to give an analogy, today, if your television breaks, you're probably not going to take it to a TV repair shop. I don't even know if TV repair shops still exist. You'll probably like go to Walmart and get another television, or go to like Best Buy or whatever your favorite television, Amazon, television supply company might be. I think we're in this really interesting phase where all of these earlier career builders are creating apps, and the apps are effectively throwaway apps where, if they need to make even smaller changes or upgrade to significantly new architectures, then they're going to rebuild as opposed to migrating existing systems, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it does. I think you recently said something along the lines of user experience and creator experience are starting to matter more than model IQ. When agents gain these kinds of traits, memory, empathy, personality, or perceived, then how does this how does this affect the overall experience, and why is this? Why did you say that this was more important than the model IQ? What do you mean by that?
So I'm not sure when I said that, but I will say that creator experience, and then also the user experience engaging with the model, or engaging with an app rather, like the stickiness of the app, is much more important than necessarily having the best model under the hood. I think that what we're seeing today are companies that are kind of marketing first. They're after lift, right?
Okay.
Like they really want and need to have lift early on, in order to grow developer adoption and really to create these projects that feel very lovable, like, kind of pun intended. But like if you get significant numbers of developers adopting your product, then you're going to have the kind of network and word of mouth and marketing effects that will lead to kind of continued adoption. Whereas I think a lot of people have been really focused on kind of getting lower level infrastructure or kind of the designs right for their products, but they don't really kind of iterate quickly. They don't engage with users early. They don't try to see if what they're building is actually the right thing before doing all of that optimization, and it ends up going poorly. So an example of this, like a tractable example, is fall.ai. They've built an API that allows you to engage with many different generative models. across many different companies. So consistent API interface, lots and lots of different models that you can swap in and out pretty easily. They also have a platform where you can experiment with the models very quickly. They usually have day zero access to models. As an example, they have day zero access to VO 3.1 today. They had day zero access for Nano Banana. But the platform is kind of like just the API on top of a whole bunch of other interfaces for the models themselves. You could easily imagine a scenario where people would be like, oh no, like I need to like self-host all of these open models as like a new one comes out every single day. I need to quantize them to make sure that they're hyper optimized to run on whatever infrastructure I have, and I cannot release until that point. And that would lose you a lot of potential developer adoption. It would lose you like time to market. Whereas if you just build the thing and get everybody using it, you can swap out models, swap out infrastructure, swap out, quantization approaches, move from hosting on some other platform to hosting yourself. And the user doesn't ever need to care. Like they will just know that like things get faster or their prices go down, if that makes sense.
Well, I mean, you answered it much better than I asked it. That's
no,
for sure.
no. Like it's like I get what you're asking. Like it's the I do feel like this entire honestly, like this feels so different than any other time in the entire history of software engineering, where marketing matters more than ever. And as a person who is not in the marketing ladder, I am like quickly attempting to learn everything that I can from our compatriots over in the growth and GTM and marketing functions.
Yeah. With speech to text models really starting to take off as well, this seems to be something we're hearing more and more from our users asking for integrations to these. What's your take on how developers are going to be using speech to text to program instead of just, prompting? I often try to formulate the right prompt, but I guess if I could speak to my models, it would be a very different experience. What's your take on that?
Yeah, like let me also like demo time, like yet another demo, like impromptu demo. Let's try to okay, cool. So I'm going to share same or the window that was open, share screen window. Cool. So the going back to AI Studio, there's this feature that we have called Stream, which is using the Gemini Live API. And what this does, dang it, like so I'm not sure if it will be able to share for this one. Let me try this other version and make sure that because sometimes when you share a Chrome tab, it works, not the other. But can you, I assume you can see the screen right now, is that correct?
The Talk to Gemini Live one?
Yep, that's the one.
Yep, we see it.
Cool. Excellent. So I am going to share my screen for this one, and tell me if you hear something talking after I ask Gemini a question. Hey, Gemini, could you tell me what you see on the screen?
I see a web page from Google's The Keyword titled Introducing VO 3.1 and Advanced Capabilities in Flow. It says it was published on October 15th, 2025, and is a 4-minute read. The authors are Jess Gallegos and Thomas Illich. There's also a button to read an AI-generated summary.
That's slick.
Yep, that's pretty cool, Gemini. How would I go about sharing this blog post?
If you just share it in the chat like you've been, we're going to put it with the
I see a
podcast.
share button next to the Read AI Generated Summary button.
Yep.
Clicking that should let you share the blog post.
Yeah, and so I use this all the time to get help with software engineering UIs. There was one instance where I was describing an issue that I had, kind of a front end bug that was a little bit gnarly, and it was after describing it for a bit, Gemini said, hey, could you share your screen with me? And then it used that to help debug. It felt a little bit surreal, like having customer support baked in. And then all of this is available not just in English, but I could also say, hey, Gemini, could you describe what you see on the screen, but describe it in German?
Gerne. Auf dem Bildschirm siehst du einen Artikel von Google The Keyword mit der Überschrift Introducing VO 3.1 and Advanced Capabilities
is
in
correct.
Flow.
And
Er
so,
wurde am 15. Oktober 2025 veröffentlicht und dauert 4 Minuten. Die Autoren sind Jess Gallegos und Thomas Illich.
yeah, and so you can have all of that just natively integrated. There's an API for it. It's the Gemini Live API. So you can see if I click Get Code, it gives me the model name. It gives me kind of all of the config settings that I had for the session itself. And then you can also integrate and incorporate tools, but it's a singular API for speech to text, LLM understanding, and also text to speech, including text to speech in like hundreds of different languages. So I think that you can also compose it together with the computer use API if you wanted to kind of have it take actions on your behalf, or to just kind of like wait quietly in the background until it saw something on the screen or until it was explicitly invoked.
Yeah.
But those kinds of things I think are going to be the future, where you have kind of these native integrations that aren't just speech to text, but are speech to text, LLM understanding, and text to speech that can take action or look up information for you. Like it would be so much cooler as you're developing to say like, hey, this map design, like I don't quite like it. Like, is there anything else that any other kind of designs that I could incorporate, or any other libraries that might be good options? Go find me one and like show me what it would look like as a mock in the app itself. So I don't think it's just speech to text. I think it's this entire pipeline.
Yeah. No, great answer.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that as well, because it has seemed like on one hand, a lot of our models have been getting better. We've been getting version 3, 4, and 5 of existing models. But when you see what the community seems to get really excited about, it feels like it's more things like Nano Banana or VO, and almost like different ways of interacting with, at least I understand it's the same models. How much do you think things are going to move in that direction, like where the next round of real life-changing improvements is going to come from the models themselves, or from, I guess, changing how we interact with them?
I think they're going to change everything that we do, and everything that the entire nature in which that we build, right? Like there's been when you think of traditional IDEs, like they're very text focused, they're very code focused, and they haven't been very visual, mostly because, the limitations of the systems in which we've been working. If you would have asked, the folks at Xerox PARC what they would do with large language models, like I guarantee you they would have designed completely different systems, right? Like and I love that they were also the ones who were pioneering things like graphical user interfaces, because they realized, like code isn't good enough. Text isn't good enough. Like we need to have a much more kind of hands-on and personal way of interacting with all of the digital artifacts that are being created. So I feel like we're going to need to have IDEs that are much more visual. We're going to need to have ways of hyper personalizing marketing materials, helping create experiences that feel similar to in-person experiences, even if they are digital. Like as an example, if I go to the REI website right now, it's basically a thin skin on top of a database with a whole bunch of different products that I have to wade through. Like it would be so much cooler for me to like go to rei.com and immediately I see a person who kind of looks like a person that I would want to get beers with on a Friday. And they're like, "Hey, Paige, like I see that you're going on a hiking trip this Friday, like, and it's in Seattle. Like, do you have the gear that you need for your campsite? Like, let's go take a look at what the campsite is. Oh, cool. Like, this seems like it would be a great fit for these kinds of setups. Like, let me show you what it would look like in real life. Okay, like it seems like there might be a chance of snow. Like, let's add some snow and see how well it might stand up given that fall." Like those kinds of things. And those would all be hyper generative media experiences. They would be very, very personalized. They would be conversations. They wouldn't be point and click activities. And they wouldn't be putting all of the work on the user to find the product. Like they would actually be trying to sell the product to the person, and to help them understand what might be the best fit. I think there's from a sales perspective, and again, I'm not a sales human, but like right now we're putting so much work on the users to and like any kind of purchaser to both find out what products exist, figure out which one might be the best one for their use case, do due diligence, test it out, try it out, and to also figure out what it might be useful for in their own context. Like, and we're also asking them to pay money. Like that shouldn't be the case long term. Like it should be much more of a concierge style approach.
So you're saying more of a human focus.
Exactly.
You
Like
don't need
as
a degree
opposed
to buy
to
something.
yeah. Yeah. And so I feel like in the future those are going to be the only thing that will persist is if you can help a person understand why a product might be uniquely beneficial for them. And that might be an open source product. It might be food, it might be clothes, it might be educational materials, whatever it is. But it needs to have that hyper personalized approach for the entire thing.
No, I like that. That's a good point. Recently, we learned that over at the other guys, OpenAI, 92% of their devs are using their Codex tool daily. What does it look like at Google in terms of, do you guys have a similar metric for measuring your guys' use of AI while developing?
Yeah, Sundar just recently mentioned it, which means that I can mention it. How much code that gets checked into production each week is generated by AI, and now it's over 50%. So each week, over 50% of the code that gets checked in, and so like gets through code review, is accepted, isn't rolled back, is generated by AI. And this is in large part due to Gemini 2.5 Pro kind of being really, really pleasant to use for writing software. But also new tools like Gemini CLI, jules.google.com for asynchronous agent work on code bases, especially open source code bases, and a whole bunch of other kind of in IDE experiences. But people are really, really using AI Studio, Gemini CLI, and Jules to get their work done.
You guys are starting to catch up to us, over 50%.
Can't beat 100% for us. But do you all have a code review tool that you're using as well to keep up with all that?
Yeah, so we're using Gemini to help with code review too. Let me show as well. There should be a fun example that I can pull up in one of our public repos, so folks can see. We have an internal tool. We have an internal tool for code review that I cannot show, but I can show you the Gemini integration into GitHub. So hopefully you can see my screen now. This is a whole bunch of pull requests for one of the repos that we have in the Google Cloud Platform organization called Generative AI. But if you scroll down, you can see some of these PRs that have come in that are still open. And what happens is that when somebody makes a PR, there should be, so there's immediately there's this Gemini Code Assist summary of changes. But then even more importantly, it goes into this code review process. So it gives some recommendations of things that need to be changed, the prioritization of the things that need to be changed, and then also some recommended fixes for the feedback. And then after the person finishes, kind of accomplishing all of these changes, then the software engineer gets invoked. So it's basically using a large language model as an intermediate check to make sure that any changes are actually valid ones. And then a human gives the final stamp of approval once everything is done. But this also gives a person who is reviewing a lot more data to understand, like, oh, okay, these are the things to be watchful for, to pay extra attention to, and then also the things that have already been fixed.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, I love those flags, the
Yeah.
priority flags.
Yeah.
Yeah, would be awesome if you could use Rue to do something like that.
Yeah.
Soon.
Yeah.
Stay tuned.
Awesome.
So, how do Google engineers use AI differently? You guys are on the cutting edge internally. You guys probably have access to things that, hasn't been pushed out to the public yet. How do Google devs use AI differently than the general development community?
Yeah. So a lot of the things that we use internally, y'all have access to as well. So I use AI Studio religiously. Like, it feels like every single hour, every single half hour, I'm using it for something new. In
Yeah.
addition to Gemini CLI and Jules and all of the other things. At Google, we're also using it for creation of marketing materials. So being able to use Nano Banana to create custom ads, animate them with VO. And I think that the rest of the world is still kind of a little tiny bit behind in terms of really, really understanding all of the potential impact of not just multimodal outputs, but also multimodal understanding and being able to create these highly customized experiences. I also feel like Google is ultra benefited in the sense that we have telemetry on everything. So
Yeah.
everything that developers do internally is logged and kind of stored, and has the potential for models to take action on. And
Yeah.
so we have some internal tools that help act on those logs that might not exist out into the rest of the world. And then, of course, we're using Gemini to help create new iterations of Gemini, and giving Gemini the ability to create kind of new features and new additions to itself as well.
Yeah. I guess everybody keeps asking in all the chats, when Gemini 3.0? And I'm sure you can't answer that if you did know. But
No, it's coming. Like, all I can say is that it's coming, and we're all very excited about it. Like, you should just stay tuned. Like, it's coming. That's all I can say.
okay, well, we're very excited for that.
Yeah.
Has AI changed the balance between coding and reviewing inside Google? Do you think engineers are spending the same amount of time doing code reviews as they once did? Or is this something where a lot more, instead of reviewing your code before the pull request, actually just sending it to the agent to do a review and seeing how it plays out?
Yeah. I think there's certainly a lot more code to review now than there was historically. And so I think that we're writing more code than we have ever before. But also the rate at which code reviews are happening is happening at a much more rapid clip. Like, I remember when I first started at Google, if you were trying to shepherd a CL through into production, it would sometimes be like a days or weeks long process, and some of it was politicking, like trying to get your feature approved. Though ideally, all of that happens in kind of the discussion process leading up to the change. But now it's much faster, both from just the conversation about the feature perspective, as well as getting the feature actually implemented. I also feel like we don't have nearly as rigorous of a process around PRDs. Like, PRDs kind of feel like an artifact of the past. because historically you would have had to have this very, very detailed document describing every single thing that you would need in the software system. Now things are moving so fast that even if you had a PRD that was perfect as of January, it would not be perfect as of February. And so these things need to be constantly evolving. So I do feel like the entire process of software engineering is just being turned on its head. And there are the people who are realizing that and really leaning into it, and then the people who are kind of struggling. And I'm blessed for the most part in the sense that all of the engineers that we have at Google are kind of leaning into using AI to help accelerate their work and to help build more things, build better things, as opposed to just attempting to follow the same practices that were common 5 years ago.
Yeah, that must be difficult for seasoned engineers who are at the top of their field to suddenly experience this shift like, never before. It must
Well,
absolutely upend them.
Well, as a person who started doing this back in 2009, like I am over the moon. Like I love learning new things. And so I think that helps, but it's also awesome in the sense that all of the boring stuff that I hated doing are all of the things that the models seem really great at. And so it's just kind of like, all right, like I get to focus more on talking to people, like figuring out what we should actually be building, iterating super quickly. So my attention deficit doesn't get triggered, because if I have an idea, I can immediately see it, as opposed to needing to spend a few hours trying to figure out how to implement the feature. So it's really, really nice to see.
And Paige, I want to ask you a little bit more about PRDs going away. I've heard that from a lot of companies as well, but I'm curious to hear a little bit more about what you do instead. Like there's also been a lot of discussion recently about companies that now have plan mode, like some other projects have had for a while. But the AI is really good at planning and coming up with docs. Like, has that been replacing the PRDs? Is people using plan mode or asking the AI to do the planning for them?
So I think the preference has been, and honestly, this is just based on personal experience, so it might be different from team to team. But the desire is to just get out something really quickly, like get out an initial prototype of the feature super quickly. Usually just kind of moving from feature request or bug directly into feature. And then getting feedback immediately and then responding to it immediately, as opposed to needing to, put it on some sort of roadmap and then wait for 5 months in order to get it added. So it isn't so much relying just on something like plan mode. Though I think that's really, really useful for creating the prototypes, and it's also like the reasoning traces are really important for creating the features themselves before you get them into production. But the process of iterating and like adding changes is mostly just responding directly to user feedback, which I think is much better, in the sense that rapid prototyping really does get you usually to a much better product or a much better end state than this really again kind of trying to think of a good analogy again that isn't calling out a specific company by name, but it does feel very similar to, Apple might have been like very quietly building something for many years and then hoping that it was the most perfect thing. And that does, maybe have a place, but for software, it's much more effective to get something out and keep iterating on it really, really quickly.
Yeah. No, that's one of the major challenges we're facing, I guess, is to keep up to this fast iteration process.
Yeah.
So do you think that we're going to see a purpose-built coding model from Google? We haven't heard about that, but we see these code versions from other providers. Where are you guys at on that?
So in the before times, right? Like for the first iteration of Palm 2, the first iteration of Gemini, The models weren't great out of the box at specific domains. So we had a version of Gemini that was specifically focused on the medical domain, and a version of Palm 2 that was specifically focused on the medical domain. MedPalm, MedLM, SecLM. There was a specific version of Gemini. I think it was called Cody or something similar, I think that was a specific version of Palm 2 rather that was very, very good at programming. But over time, like all of those domain specific fine tunes, their data made it back into pre-training. And so now the pre-training mixture has so much data that had previously been out of distribution for the initial pre-trains, that Gemini out of the box is really, really good at medical stuff. And it's really, really good at security stuff. And it's really, really good at code stuff. And you might have to prompt it a little bit in order to help it get into the mental state of like, okay, cool, I'm doing code now. And then it's off to the races. But for the most part, we're just trying to bake in as much of those capabilities as possible into the base model, which is really the only way to get to AGI and ASI. Like we've already started hiring ASI engineers, and we have an ASI team. And there might be a need to have, if you're working with tinier on-device models, to do domain-specific fine-tunes. But for the larger models, they're pretty great out of the box at all of these things.
No, I like that.
Yeah.
That's I know that recently with Codex, people have asked, how do we get this working in Roo code? And when we look at it more deeply, it's very much trained so specifically that it's not really as useful in Roo code. And to try to keep up to that kind of thing can make it very difficult for companies like us who are trying to work with all these different models. So general use models really are beneficial for the democratization of this space, I think.
And when you think about software engineering, like so much of software engineering happens outside of the IDE. Like you're working on, you're discussing what features need to be added. You're kind of whiteboarding out a potential design. You're sort of describing some features that you might want to have in a meeting. Like it's more than just code. And I think that if you limit the capabilities of the model to be just code, you're going to miss out on a lot of things that you would find otherwise.
Yeah, it does seem like a lot of it, when people say coding model, I think what they mean is the tool use and making it so the model really knows how to use tools. And I think it'll be interesting to see what happens with the next generation of models. It feels like when we talked last time, I think everyone was trying to figure out how do we get the models to do a diff correctly. I think now we've almost gone the opposite direction where they're so opinionated about tool use that tools like Roo code probably need to optimize more for however the models were trained and whatever their instincts are, but at least they're good at using the tools. So I think it'll be interesting to figure out how these tools like ours that try to handle multiple models to the extent that I really believe it's going to be important to get the best of all the models, how we can collaborate and how the models expose their tool using, instincts to make it so we can really create good experiences here, because nothing kind of kills the vibe more than, edit failed or, didn't know how to read a file, things like that.
Yeah, I do think it's good that all of the model service providers are leaning into MCP servers, though. Like that does seem to be something that everybody's aligned on. We've added MCP server support within Gemini CLI. So I think the more that we can kind of align on standards as a model building community, the better off we're all going to be.
Yeah. There is one thing that a debate I have internally with our team is about speed versus quality. I noticed you guys have pretty fast models.
Yep.
I've recently leaned into slower models that get me what I want, and I'll just run more instances at once. And it seems the traditional developers are more in line with fast models because they're working on one task at a time, and having that quick response really makes their flow. It accelerates their effectiveness. What's your take on the speed versus quality, and how does Google decide whether they're going to ramp up the output quality versus the speed in their final iterations?
So we have for Gemini 2.5, we have the Pro tier, which is kind of the quality one that you were referencing, and then also the Flash tier, which is smaller, cheaper, faster. Sometimes not as good of quality, but still pretty reasonably good in terms of quality. And I think for tasks that I know are that I could kind of punt to an L3 or an L4 engineer, then I'm fine with using Gemini 2.5 Flash, especially if I'm in thinking mode, because thinking mode will kind of build out a plan for me, and then it will kind of compose that into individual chunks or functions. And the model is pretty good at doing the individual chunks really well, as opposed to asking it to do all of the things all at once. Whereas 2.5 Pro, if you really, really care about quality and it's a much, harder task, I think 2.5 Pro is a better option. But we're also seeing this in terms of developer patterns, right? Like Jules is an asynchronous agent that you can operate via the browser. And so you can set off like 10 different browser tabs worth of Jules tasks. And go and get coffee and then come back and see how things are going.
I'm pretty sure I have some Joule tasks I never got back to because I did that.
Yep. And so like those kinds of asynchronous expectations, like having an asynchronous agent do it, like that's 100% okay. Whereas Gemini CLI is really intended to be kind of much more kind of dynamic. You're engaging directly with the agents and kind of coaching them in real time on their work. I think we see those two different behavioral patterns as well. And the most folks will choose a model based on kind of the size of their task, the complexity of their task. But again, kind of similar to that discussion we had before, I think that's putting a lot of work on the people that we're asking to use our products. Whereas like the ideal state long-term is that they just say like, hey, I have these requirements, and then their requirements get met, as opposed to them needing to figure out how to like, oh, which one should I pick? Should it be
that is problematic for me. I often just choose instead of trying it this way and then moving to the next one, I often just give it the full power out the gate and move on, come back to it later, because I don't like doing the give it the lower powered model. Yes, no, okay, let's try a little more horsepower. So I do like the future where we just give it a task and that choosing is behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Matt, or you want to ask that next question or on me about their monorepo? The rumors of a giant Google monorepo?
Yeah, we have a mole who used to work at Google who tells me that almost all of Google is a monorepo.
Yes, this is true.
Is that actually true? Yeah.
It is absolutely true. We also have a really, really good, I think it might have been ACM or IEEE, ACM, the article about it, talking through a lot of the kind of the tooling that you need to have when you operate a monorepo at the scale that Google operates its monorepo. So if anybody wants to, it's almost a decade old now. But if anybody wants to get insights into why we have things structured as we do, and then also what interesting distributed systems challenges occur because of it, like I think that's a good option.
I'm also interested.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm interested in the updated version too, which is as more over half of your code's written by AI, like how that goes in such a large monorepo, and what kind of tools or agent understanding is needed to navigate that.
So interestingly, like this article was written before even and I'm an old school human. So again, like to all of you youngsters out there building the future, like this will make me sound very old. But I remember before, cloud service providers really took off, right? Like when like pre pre-AWS being the natural thing, and everybody had their own data centers, everybody had their own compute infrastructure. And so I think that now we really do have Google Cloud as a platform that people can build and scale out their applications on. So a lot of the teams that are building newer applications, they defer to build on Google Cloud as opposed to building necessarily within Google 3. And all of our bets like Waymo, what used to be Area 120, like that was all building on Google Cloud. So I think that like the monorepo is consistent for our early days products. A lot of the newer products are running on GCP.
Well, I guess we are at time. Thank you very much, Paige Bailey, for joining us.
Yeah. Thank you all for having us.
And we look forward to having you again in the not too distant future. So thank you for accepting our invite at such short notice.
Cool. Thank you, and good to see you. Looking forward to sharing more shortly.
Okay. See you later, Roo community.
Cool.
Take it easy.
Bye.